Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jump, and today I'm doing my top 5 elements that could be brought back or see a return in a future 3D Zelda game. Now, with the Zelda movie being in production, and with the last 3D Zelda game being Tears of the Kingdom, and the last proper Zelda game being Echoes of Wisdom, this video is going to be me talking about some elements that we've seen in previous games and talk about how they could potentially be brought back in a potential new 3D Zelda game if or whenever we do get that announcement in a Nintendo Direct or a Zelda Direct. So yeah, for number 5 is more dungeon themes. Now, when it comes to the way that the dungeons work in the Zelda series, is that you've got your typical ones like fire, water, forest themed dungeons. Then you've got some unique ones, like a nice one, a spirity type one, one that might be full of ghosts, that sort of thing, depending on the game you're playing. And I would think it'll be really cool to see like more dungeon themes or a combination of dungeon themes in the new 3D Zelda game, because in Tears of the Kingdom, it was, if you exclude the Spirit Temple, there were you basically had the four-ish or 4 to 5 same dungeons type. So you had the Fire Temple, you had the desert or the sand temple in the Gerudo area. You had the Wind Temple, the Water Temple, and then you had Hyrule Castle, which is pretty much the same sort of locations that you saw in Breath of the Wild. But if we ever do see a new teaser for a 3D Zelda game, I would like to see some new dungeon themes, or bring back old Zelda dungeon themes, or do something that combines them. So if you look at the ancient system from Skyward Sword, for example, that I would say has a combination of both the water temple theme as well as a sort of spirit temple type of theme, because I would say the ancient system is more of a water temple base, because there's a lot of water sections you have to go through, and I would say you're in the top section a bit longer than you are in the bottom section. But that sort of thing is really cool because it kind of contrasts the whole temple, and it's really cool to see how the puzzles work and stuff like that. And it'd be really cool to see, if we do get to see more dungeons, it'd be really cool to see like combinations of different themes. So you could have one that's a water or ice one, or water and wind one, or a fire and lightning based dungeon. And that'd be really cool to see, because I think the Zelda series is always well known for bringing out new themes when it comes to dungeons, or remixing those dungeon themes. It'd be really cool to see something like that in the next 3D Zelda game. For number 4 is a new companion. Now, companions are no new thing in the Zelda series. They've been around since Ocarina of Time, and each one all have their own unique personalities and helps Link out throughout all of you playing Echoes of the Wisdom, Zelda out when they're trying to save the world from the main bad guy of that particular game. And the last companion we saw was Tree in Echoes of Wisdom, and I think they were really cool, and I think their chemistry with Zelda was really enjoyable to see whenever they were going through a dungeon or just talking about a particular part of the lore that they've learned and stuff like that. And I think it'll be really cool to see a new companion and how they play their role in the new game, because each companion in the Zelda series have all had their own unique backstory or part to play in the games. So if you look at someone like Minda, she was cursed by Zant, and she basically wants to, in Twilight Princess, basically take back the throne of the Twilight Realm. And if you look at someone else like Linebeck, he starts off as this sort of like coward that doesn't want to get himself into battles and more wants to hide. But at the end of the game, he gets the courage to face up against Bellum, and that's really cool. And seeing a new companion had that sort of thing, like, oh, they might start out with like, oh, they might start off as a coward, or they might not trust Link at first, but then over the course of the game, they get the courage to stand up to the main villain or something like that. And it'd be really cool to see like what kind of ability that they can use, because nearly every single, basically nearly every single Zelda companion has some sort of abilities that they can use. For number 3 is roaming bosses. Now, roaming bosses were mainly in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, and I would say that they were some of the best parts of those games, because it was really cool to just basically walk around Hyrule in both of those games and just bump into them, because you've got ones like the Stone Taloses, you've got the Hinoxes and Stalnoxes, you've got the Moldugas, the Foxes, the Gleox and stuff like that. And those roaming bosses were so cool. It'd be really cool to see them being brought back in a future game, because it's really cool to see, like, I think that's what makes it interesting to experience the world, just finding things and just fighting like roaming bosses like the Gleox and the Moldugas and stuff like that. And I think it'd be really cool to have a part of like of a quest, like beat. I think there are some quests that do that in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like, oh, beat these particular monsters and you'll get a reward and stuff like that. And I think that'd be really cool to see more back into the next 3D Zelda game, because again, it'll making the traversal a lot more interesting and unique, instead of just going from point A to B and just having a few fights in between. But if we had a roaming boss, that'd be really, really cool to see. For number 2 is customization of things like horse gear and armor. And I would say with this one, again, it's really cool. We got to see that in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but also in other games, even though not as large as Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom in terms of customization, like in games like Spirit Tracks and Echoes of Wisdom. And in those two games, Echoes of Wisdom and Spirit Tracks, the customization is limited, but it's still really cool to see, like, having Link and Zelda be in different costumes and seeing them like in cutscenes, or having them be related to the plot or a side quest of some kind. And having this kind of customization be brought back would be cool, because I think it'll be really cool to see, like, just like how a particular person or particular player would customize Link or Zelda, and that fits within their characterization, or the person, or the player's personality, or something like that, or what particular armor or horse gear or whatever they might like, and fits with the aesthetic of the game or something like that. And yeah, I think the customization thing is really cool, because in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, you had so many different types of armor that you can use and customize, whether that's, you know, the flight armor, the light armor, the night armor, or just the typical standard Hylian armor. And all of them are really unique and cool, and I think bringing that sort of thing back would be cool, and just mix and matching different armors and stuff like that. And for number 1 is side characters having their own story arcs or character arcs. And I would say that this will be quite cool to see, because you kind of have that in some of the later Zelda games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But I would say as a whole, we did see them, like the Sages and the Champion Descendants, but as a whole, it's like, if we exclude those characters for a minute, not a lot of the side characters you meet in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom have a lot of character development, and a lot of the characters you meet along your journey in those games are like, they're basically just, you meet them, you might get a quest from them, and then you do the quest and you probably won't talk to them again. But I think in a future 3D Zelda game, it'd be really cool to see like more side characters or a bunch of side characters be brought back and just have them be or be a more or have a well, basically just have a more important um importance to the story and have them go through their own character arc. So, for example, I talked about Linebeck of how he becomes more heroic and more courageous. Then we first meet him in Phantom Hourglass, where he's a bit of a coward when you first meet him. And then there's also Groose in Skyward Sword, where he is first introduced as the school bully, but then throughout the course of the game he becomes more heroic and he helps out Link throughout the imprisoned fight, and he becomes more of that hero that he believes that he is. And I would say as a whole, if we get new characters in the next game, it'd be really cool to see like some side characters going through their own character arcs and just seeing how they become a hero in their own right in their particular story. So that's been my top 5 elements that could be brought back in a future 3D Zelda game. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.